Welcome to my channel where nightmares live. This is Midnight Tales.
What if the stranger in an old photograph was not just part of the past, but already inside your home? Tonight, we uncover the terrifying story of a woman who bought an innocent-looking photo album, only to discover a man lurking in every picture, moving closer with each turn of the page. Stay with me, because what she found in the final photograph will haunt you long after the video ends. She found the photo album at a dusty yard sale on a quiet street. Its leather cover was cracked, and the pages smelled of mildew. The pictures inside were faded, some blurred, others torn at the edges. But in every photo, there he was. A man. Standing in the background. At first, he was distant, almost hidden in the shadows. His face was pale, indistinct, but his eyes, dark, fixed, seemed to look directly at her. She turned the pages slowly, each photograph older than the last. Family gatherings. Birthdays. Vacations. And always, the man stood there. Closer. Always closer. Her chest tightened as she flipped faster. In one photo, he was no longer behind the crowd. He was at the edge of the frame. Half of his face visible, grinning faintly. The light in the room seemed colder as she stared. Her fingers trembled, the paper crackling in her hands. Another page. A child's birthday party. The cake on the table. And behind the child, the man. Leaning in. As if he was whispering something. She turned another page. Her breath caught. The photograph was different. The room was not old. It was her living room. Her furniture. Her wallpaper. And in the corner, by the window. The man. Her hands froze on the page. The photograph blurred as her eyes filled with tears, though she did not cry. Her throat tightened, her breath coming in short, shallow bursts. She looked around her living room, half expecting to see him there, in the flesh. The shadows seemed deeper, stretched unnaturally across the floor. Every creak of the old house felt like a step closer. The silence was too heavy. It pressed against her chest, urging her to look again at the photograph. She forced her gaze downward. The man was still there, standing in the corner of her living room, his face sharper, more defined than before. His eyes were black voids, without light, without soul. His smile was thin and hungry, lips curling upward in unnatural delight. She flipped to the next page, desperate to see anything else. But her blood ran cold. The picture was not old. It was taken just last night. Her bed. Her blankets thrown back. And she was in it, asleep. Her chest rose and fell in the photo, peaceful, unaware. But in the doorway of her bedroom. The man watched. Her hand trembled violently, smudging the edge of the photo with sweat. She shut the album, pressing the cover hard as though that could trap him inside. But the air around her shifted. The smell of damp earth filled her nose, thick and rotting, though no windows were open. The silence shattered. A faint scratching sound came from the hallway. Slow. Dragging. Like nails across the wall. Her body refused to move, but her ears strained, following the sound as it crept closer. One scrape. Another. The rhythm was deliberate, purposeful. The kind of sound made not by accident, but by intention. She forced herself up, her knees buckling beneath her weight. The floorboards groaned loudly, announcing her every movement. Her eyes darted to the hallway, where the sound had gone quiet. The darkness there seemed alive, pulsing with something unseen. Her skin prickled as though invisible fingers brushed along her arms. She wanted to run, but her feet betrayed her, moving one step at a time toward the hall. Her pulse thundered in her ears, drowning out thought. And then she saw it. On the wall, etched deep into the plaster, were long gouges. Fresh. Jagged. As though something had been dragged with violent intent. Her breath came ragged, shaking her ribcage. The album still lay open on the couch behind her, pages trembling slightly as though touched by unseen hands. She turned her head, slowly, as if pulled by a force she could not resist. The album was no longer where she had left it. It now rested on the floor, open to a new page. Her stomach lurched as she saw the photograph. It was her hallway. Her walls. The gouges. And behind them. The man was standing in the shadows, his body twisted, his head tilted unnaturally, his smile stretching too wide for a human face. She gasped, stumbling backward, her heel knocking against the doorframe. The photograph seemed to shift, the shadows inside moving as though alive. She blinked once. The man was closer in the photo. She blinked again. Closer still. Her eyes widened in terror as she realized the truth. Every time she blinked, he moved. Her eyelids burned as she forced them open. She could not blink. She dared not. The photograph still lay on the floor, the man inside frozen mid-step, his crooked body lunging forward. Her vision blurred from the strain, tears welling, threatening to spill. Her eyes begged for relief. She bit her lip until it bled, trying to fight the instinct. But she blinked. And when her eyes opened again, he was gone from the photograph. The frame showed only her hallway, empty, except for the claw marks gouged into the wall. Her chest heaved, air ragged in her throat. She spun around, scanning the shadows, desperate, terrified. The silence was unbearable, as if the world itself held its breath. Then, a floorboard groaned behind her. She whipped around, but nothing was there. The house stretched endlessly, every corner of darkness threatening to move. Her heart pounded against her ribs, a brutal rhythm of panic. And then she felt it. A breath. Cold, damp, exhaling against the back of her neck. Her body went rigid, every muscle locking in place. Slowly, too slowly, she turned her head. The air was empty. But the scent of earth and rot lingered, stronger, clinging to her skin. She stumbled backward, her legs weak beneath her, and her heel struck something solid. Her heart dropped. The photo album. It was no longer across the room. It leaned against her ankle, pages open wide, as though it had crawled to her. Her trembling hand reached down despite her terror, compelled to look again. The next photograph stared back at her. It was her reflection. Not in a mirror, not in a window. But in the very moment she stood now. Her mouth parted in shock, her eyes wide with horror. And behind her reflection, towering, skeletal, grinning. The man. She jerked her head over her shoulder. Nothing. Only shadows. Her pulse rattled in her ears, threatening to burst. She dropped the album, but the pages continued to turn on their own, each flip echoing like a whisper. One page. Another. Each photograph showed her home. Her rooms. Her movements. Moments that had not yet happened. She saw herself running. She saw herself crying. She saw herself hiding. And on every page, the man followed, closer, closer, closer. Her knees buckled, and she clutched the wall, nails digging into the wood. The air grew colder, her breath fogging faintly before her eyes. The lights flickered, casting jagged shadows that stretched unnaturally across the walls. A faint, rhythmic sound echoed from somewhere deep within the house. Tap. 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 As though bare feet dragged across the floorboards. Her lips trembled as she whispered to herself, praying it would stop. But the sound only grew louder. Closer. The air thickened, pressing against her chest like unseen hands. Her head spun, her vision swimming as though the walls were bending inward. She tried to scream. But a voice, low and rasping, hissed from the darkness before she could. A voice that did not belong in this world. You should not have looked. Her body stiffened at the words. The voice was not just heard. It was felt. It vibrated inside her bones, crawling beneath her skin like insects. She pressed her hands over her ears, but the voice did not stop. It was inside her head now. You let me in. Her breath came in shallow gasps, each one a desperate claw at the air. The shadows in the hallway seemed to ripple, bending like smoke though no wind stirred. Her eyes darted to the photo album still lying open on the floor. The pages were no longer still. They fluttered rapidly, though she felt no breeze. As the pages turned, the sound grew louder, echoing like distant laughter. Then, the pages stopped. The photograph now showed her front door. Closed. Dark. But something pressed against the glass from the outside. A face. The man's face. His features stretched impossibly thin against the pane, his grin widening until the glass seemed ready to crack. Her throat tightened as a sound reached her ears. Not from the photo. From the real door. A slow, deliberate knock. Once. Twice. 3 times. The sound vibrated through the house, shaking the walls. She stumbled backward, clutching the wall for support, her fingernails leaving scratches in the paint. Her eyes locked on the door, her mind screaming for her to run. But her body refused. Her legs shook violently, rooted in place. The silence that followed was worse than the knocking. Heavy. Oppressive. As if the entire house waited for her next move. Then came the sound again. Not from the door this time. From the kitchen. The distinct creak of a hinge, slow and deliberate, like a door opening on its own. Her heart nearly stopped. She had not moved. She had not touched a thing. The photo album flipped to another page. The kitchen. Her kitchen. And there, in the photograph, the man stood in the doorway. Bent. Grinning. Watching. The smell of damp earth and rot swelled, filling her lungs until she gagged. Her stomach heaved, bile rising in her throat. She staggered forward, desperate to escape, but the lights above her flickered violently. For a moment, the hallway plunged into darkness. And in that single breath of blackness, she felt it. Cold fingers brushed the side of her neck. She screamed, spinning around, her back pressed to the wall. Nothing. Only the shadows shifting, curling like smoke around her feet. Her eyes flicked back to the album. Another page had turned. The photograph was now of her hallway. Her exact position. Her pressed against the wall, mouth open in a scream. And next to her in the picture. The man towered over her shoulder, his face inches from her own. Her blood froze. She did not dare move. Her breath came fast and shallow, her chest heaving as she tried to quiet herself. The house was utterly silent now. No creak. No flicker. Only the echo of her own pulse pounding like a drum. Then. From somewhere in the dark. A whisper. Closer than before. So close it tickled the edge of her ear. I am already here. Her heart felt as if it stopped. The whisper lingered in the air, heavy and wet, as though it dripped from unseen lips. She pressed her back harder against the wall, her body trembling, every nerve screaming to flee. But she knew it was too late. The album lay open on the floor, the last page revealed. Her eyes, though burning with terror, could not resist looking. The photograph showed her hallway, her wall, her trembling body pressed against it. It showed her in this exact moment. But there was no longer a man standing behind her. There was only emptiness. The man was gone from the picture. Gone from the pages. Her chest tightened as a sudden realization tore through her. If he was no longer in the photographs. He was somewhere else. A cold breath slid against her cheek. Her skin crawled as she turned her head ever so slightly. And there he was. No longer a figure in the background. No longer a shadow. But a towering presence, inches from her, his smile stretching impossibly wide, black eyes reflecting her fear. Her scream ripped through the house, sharp and desperate. But no one heard. The lights flickered once, then went dark. When the silence returned, the hallway was empty. The photo album lay closed on the floor, its cracked leather cover still and unmoving. On its first page, a new photograph appeared. A woman. Eyes wide, mouth frozen mid-scream. And behind her. Nothing but shadows.